Thresholds of Thought. Giordano Bruno's Last Night. Rome, February 16th, 1600. Beneath the Castel Sant'Angelo, in a cell built for forgetting, a man counts his final hours. His name is Giordano Bruno, once a Dominican friar, now a condemned heretic. For 8 years, the Inquisition has offered him his life in exchange for his ideas. He has refused. Tomorrow morning, they will take him to Campo de Fiori. They will bind him to a stake. They will set fire to his body. Tonight, he is alone with the infinite darkness, and, perhaps for the first time, with doubt.
The candle gutters. They left me one candle. A kindness? Or do they want me to see my cell clearly, these walls, this straw, these chains, so that I might weigh them against the abstractions I am dying for? I have spent 8 years in rooms like this. 8 years of questions. Do you recant, Brother Giordano? Do you acknowledge the error of your propositions? And I have answered how many times now? I have nothing to recant. I do not know what I should recant. They think I am being stubborn. They think this is pride, the old sin of Lucifer who would not bow. But it is not pride. It is simply that I cannot unsee what I have seen. How do you recant a geometry? How do you renounce a star? The bells. Midnight, perhaps, or later. Time moves strangely in the dark. I used to navigate by stars, by the fixed points in the celestial sphere. But I destroyed that sphere, didn't I? I scattered those fixed points into infinity. Now there is no center, no up, no down, only more, always more. When I was young, when I first understood that the earth was not the center, that the sun was a star like other stars, that the universe extended without limit in all directions, I wept, not from fear, from joy. To live in an infinite cosmos seemed to me the greatest gift. Every horizon opened onto another horizon. Every question birthed 1,000 more. It was freedom, pure and terrifying. And now they will burn me for that freedom. I am not brave. Let me say that clearly, to this empty cell, to the God who may or may not exist beyond these walls. I am not brave. My hands shake. My bowels turn to water when I think of tomorrow. I have seen men burned, in Naples, in Geneva, in the squares of a dozen cities. I have smelled the smoke of heretics. I know what fire does to flesh. The body is a poor philosopher. It does not care about infinite worlds. It cares about pain, about the next breath, about survival. and my body is screaming at me now as it has screamed for 8 years. Recant. Say the words. Live. Cardinal Bellarmine visited me last week. A courteous man, intelligent. He laid out the 8 propositions I must abjure. He spoke gently, as one might speak to a sick child. "Brother Giordano," he said, "the Church does not wish your death. We wish only your return. Confess your errors, accept the limits of human reason, and you will live." The limits of human reason. As if reason were a small room and I had merely wandered past its walls. As if the universe could be contained by their categories. Finite, created, centered on our little earth, which itself is centered on Rome, which itself is centered on the Vatican, which itself is centered on the Pope's infallible mouth. But I have seen it, Bellarmine. Not with the eyes of faith, but with the eyes of mathematics. The universe is infinite. The stars are suns. Around those suns, other worlds circle. Worlds perhaps with their own philosophers, their own heretics, their own pyres. And this truth does not diminish God. It magnifies him beyond your comprehension. But they do not want a magnified God. They want a manageable one. I think of my mother. She died when I was still a friar, before all this began. She never learned to read. She believed what the priests told her, that the world was as the Church described it, that heaven was above and hell below, that the Virgin watched over Naples from her shrine on the hill. Was she wrong? She lived and died in peace. She is buried in consecrated ground. Her soul, if souls exist, rests in whatever reward the faithful receive. And I, who sought truth with every faculty I possessed, will die tomorrow with my tongue in a gag, my ashes scattered so that no relic remains, my name erased from the book of life. Did I choose wrongly? No. The question is malformed. It assumes that truth and comfort are alternatives to be weighed on a merchant's scale, but they are not. Truth is not something I chose. It is something I saw. And once seen, it cannot be unseen. I could mouth the words of recantation. I could kneel before their cardinals and confess that the earth stands still, that the stars are fixed in crystal spheres, that God created one world and one world only. But I would know. In the secret chamber of my mind, I would know I was lying. And that lie would be a death more complete than any fire. I have been afraid for so long. 8 years of fear tamped down, pushed aside, argued away in the long nights. But tonight, this last night, I find something strange beneath the fear. Not courage, something quieter. Call it acceptance or exhaustion, or simply the recognition that the argument is over. I wrote once that the soul is not in the body, but the body in the soul. that consciousness is not trapped in matter, but matter arises within consciousness, within the infinite mind of the cosmos itself. If I was right, then what happens tomorrow is not an ending. It is a transformation. The atoms that compose this trembling flesh will scatter into the universe I loved. They will join stars. They will become part of other worlds, other thinkers, other heretics burning for truths not yet imagined. Perhaps in 1,000 years, an atom that was once my hand will write another forbidden book. And if I was wrong, if there is no infinite mind, no soul, no continuation, if tomorrow I simply stop, then I will have lived as I believed one should live, in pursuit of truth, in defiance of comfortable lies, in love with a cosmos too vast for human piety to contain. That is not nothing. That is something. That is, perhaps, the only immortality that matters. The guards are changing. Dawn cannot be far. I should sleep, but sleep is impossible. My mind races through old proofs, old arguments, old books I will never finish. My De l'Infinito, did I make the case clearly enough? Will anyone read it after tomorrow? Or will they burn my words as they burn my body? I wish I could know. Not whether God exists or whether the soul survives. Those questions are too large for certainty. But simply, will anyone remember? In 100 years, in 500, will someone read my words and understand? Or will the fire consume even that, the memory of the memory, until nothing remains but ashes and silence? It does not matter. It does not matter. I did not write for posterity. I wrote because the truth demanded to be written. Whether it survives is not my concern. A star does not ask whether anyone sees its light. The candle is almost gone. An hour left, perhaps 2. When they come for me, I will stand. I will walk. I will not beg. This much I can control. This final performance, this last argument made with the body instead of words. They will gag me. They are afraid of what I might say at the stake, afraid my words might reach the crowd, might plant seeds in minds they cannot control. Good. Let them be afraid. Let them know that an idea cannot be burned, even as the man who holds it turns to ash. Infinite worlds, countless suns, a universe without center, without edge, without end. I saw it for a moment. I held infinity in my mind. And tomorrow, they will try to make that mind stop. But infinity does not stop. That is what makes it infinite. The candle has gone out. Only darkness now. But above me, above the stone, above the prison, above the Castel and Rome itself, the stars are burning. I cannot see them, but I know they are there. I have always known. Perhaps you pronounce this sentence against me with greater fear than I receive it.
At dawn on February 17, 1600, Giordano Bruno was led to Campo de Fiori. His tongue was bound in a leather gag. He was stripped, tied to a stake, and burned alive. His ashes were scattered. The church forbade the faithful to speak his name. 3 centuries later, a statue of Bruno was erected on the site of his execution, facing the Vatican. His books were translated into every major language. His vision of an infinite universe became the foundation of modern cosmology. The fire did what fire does, but the idea, the impossible, heretical, world-shattering idea that fire could not touch. What truth would you die for? And more difficult still, what truth would you live for, knowing death was the price?